You were never enough. Caspian's words felt like a hard slap on Alara's heart. She felt like someone had stabbed her with a knife of betrayal. In that very moment, she saw the truth she had not wanted to see for many years. Have you ever trusted someone you loved, only to find out they lied to you? Have you ever felt like you were only holding a place in someone else's life, like a toy that could be replaced? What would you do if everything you believed about your marriage broke in just one painful second? As Alara stood there watching the man she loved with another woman, her whole world broke apart. But this was not the end. It was only the beginning. What came next would surprise even her. Alara was about to take her life back and make it stronger than she had ever dreamed. Alara stood in front of the elevator doors, her mind still full of thoughts from the meeting she had just attended. In the past, she would always feel excited when she was about to see her husband, Caspian. But now that excitement was gone. She had been the perfect wife. She was like the shiny jewel beside a billionaire tech businessman. He had built his huge company, and she had built her life around him. She gave up her dreams to support him. She always felt proud of her role as his wife. She loved Caspian so much and believed their marriage was strong and unbreakable. But as the elevator doors opened to their penthouse, she was about to learn a truth that would crush her heart. The doors slid open. Her eyes fell on the large living room. Expensive furniture, shiny marble floors, and tall glass walls showing the whole city outside. But something felt strange. The air felt heavy. The laughter she heard from the living room was not the laughter she knew from Caspian. It wasn't the warm laugh that once made her feel loved. This laugh was sharp, loud, and playful. Her heart began to race. A cold wave of fear ran through her body, and then she saw it. Caspian, her husband, was standing close to another woman by the glass wall. His fingers were in the woman's long, golden hair. He touched her in a way he hadn't touched Alara for months. Alara's stomach twisted with pain. The woman was tall, blonde, and beautiful, like someone from a dream. Caspian leaned close as she whispered in his ear, making him laugh in a way Alara had not heard for a long time. He used to laugh like that with her, back when their marriage was still alive, but now he laughed with someone else. Alara's hands shook. The champagne bottle she had brought for their wedding anniversary slipped from her fingers. It fell to the floor and shattered loudly. The sound echoed like thunder. To Alara, it felt like her heart itself had broken into a million sharp pieces. But Caspian and the woman did not turn around. They were too lost in each other. The woman had legs that seemed to go on forever. She was everything Alara was not. Alara had never tried to be like that because Caspian always told her he loved her just the way she was. But now Alara realized those words had been lies. Her chest hurt, her breath caught in her throat. She had given Caspian her whole life. She had supported him, loved him, and stood beside him at every event. But now she saw she had been nothing more than a trophy wife, someone to show off at parties. She had been a perfect picture for his empire, but never his partner. She was replaceable. The blonde woman pulled away from Caspian. Her lipstick was smudged, her dress wrinkled. She smiled smugly, like she had already won. "I should go," the woman said softly but proudly. "Your wife will be home soon." Caspian chuckled darkly. "Alara is at some charity event until midnight. She's always at those things now, like she's trying to prove something." The words stabbed Alara's heart. She wanted to scream, to run and break them apart, but her body froze. The blonde woman, Serafina, fixed her hair in the window's reflection. "Maybe you should just tell her. It's been 6 months. I'm tired of hiding." 6 months. The affair had been going on for 6 months. Every late night, every business trip, every strange perfume she had smelled on him, he had been lying. Caspian looked at Serafina, his face cold. "It's not that simple, Serafina." "Why not?" she asked angrily. "You said the marriage was a mistake. You said you only married her because it was good for your image." Alara felt like she had been punched. A mistake? Their whole marriage, all those years, all those dreams, they were nothing but a mistake to him. "I know what I said," Caspian replied. "But divorce is complicated. She signed a prenup, but it's not ironclad, and she knows too much about the business, about deals that aren't exactly legal." Alara's stomach turned. He was afraid of her because she knew his secrets, dirty secrets she had kept safe for years out of love. To him, she was nothing but a threat. Serafina leaned closer. "Then we'll wait. But I won't wait forever, Alex. I have other options." In that moment, Alara saw the truth. This wasn't just an affair. Serafina wanted her place, and Caspian was letting her take it. Then the elevator behind Alara opened. Lachlan, Caspian's assistant, stepped out. His face turned pale when he saw her. "Mrs. Vance," he whispered, his voice full of pity. "I didn't know you were here." "Neither did they," Alara whispered coldly. She walked back into the elevator, leaving Caspian and Serafina behind. Her chest ached, but inside, a fire began to burn. She was not going to let them crush her. Not without a fight. The doors closed. Alara took a deep breath. She was no longer the weak woman who gave up everything. She was stronger now. Her heels clicked on the marble floor as she left the building. She didn't know where to go yet. Her life had just shattered into pieces. But she knew one thing. She would no longer be a shadow. She looked at her reflection in the tall glass. She didn't see Caspian's perfect wife anymore. She saw a woman who had been hurt, but who would rise again. She had given up her career, her dreams, to stand beside him. But now she realized she had been trapped in a golden cage, and now she was free. Alara grabbed her purse and walked out with steady steps. She wasn't going to let Caspian's betrayal define her. She was smart, capable, and strong, and she would fight for herself. Her heart still hurt, but her mind was clear. She would make her own life again, and this time it would be hers alone. Alara sat quietly in the back of the car. Her heart was heavy, and her mind was full of worries. She knew she needed a lawyer, someone smart who could help her through the storm that was coming. She had to protect herself, her money, and her dignity. Her thoughts went back to the paper she had signed before the wedding, the prenup. Everyone marrying a billionaire was told to sign it, and she had done the same. Back then, it felt like nothing important, just another form to sign. She thought it would never matter. But now, after the painful truth she had learned, she wondered if the paper would even protect her. People had told her it was strong and unbreakable. But Alara knew powerful men like Caspian always found tricks and ways around things. She had trusted him too much, trusted him blindly, and now she saw how foolish she had been. Caspian had always been smart, always planning things, always looking far ahead. Now, he would use everything he had against her. But Alara would not let him win. She would fight. She would use the same tricks he had used to build his business empire. She had learned from watching him all these years. By the time the car stopped in front of the law office, Alara had made her choice. She would file for divorce. She would no longer be the quiet woman standing behind Caspian. She would no longer live only in his shadow. She would stand for herself and live her own life. She had spent so many years helping him with his dreams, always staying in the background. That was over now. She would make Caspian regret ever thinking she was weak. Inside the law office, Alara met Beatrix Chin. Beatrix was a sharp, serious lawyer who worked with rich and famous people going through divorce. Alara told her story. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed anger and pain. Beatrix listened carefully, writing notes but not interrupting. When Alara finished, Beatrix leaned back in her chair. Her eyes narrowed, and her voice was steady. "The prenup is tough, but not impossible," Beatrix said. "If we can prove that Caspian lied to you or kept you away from knowing the truth about his business, we can fight it. If we can prove fraud or adultery, we can win." "Adultery?" Alara repeated with a bitter smile. "I've already seen enough of that." Beatrix nodded. "I'll need to look deeper, gather proof. but I believe we can turn this in your favor. For the first time since leaving Caspian's penthouse, Alara felt a spark of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. She had someone strong in her corner. Let's do it, Alara said firmly. I'm done playing his game. I want to win, and I'll do whatever it takes. As she walked out of the office, Alara felt a new strength in her heart. She was no longer a victim. She was ready to fight. This was only the beginning. Alara now lived in a small apartment in a quiet part of the city. The walls were bare, the shelves empty, the furniture simple. It was nothing like the big, shiny penthouse she had once shared with Caspian. But this little apartment was hers. That was all that mattered. She no longer cared about glamour, fancy clothes, or expensive things. What mattered now was the woman she saw in the mirror every morning. She wasn't the naive wife anymore. She wasn't just Caspian's shadow. She was Alara Vance, and she was ready to find herself again. It wasn't easy. Every day she looked back at her past, trying to untangle the life she had lived with Caspian. Memories came back. Their first date, trips to faraway places, the way he once looked at her with shining eyes. But now all of it felt like lies. She thought she knew him, but she never truly did. He had used her. He had made her give up her dreams while she helped him build his. She had lived in the shadows, never asking for anything in return. Now, in her small apartment, she knew she had to let go of those illusions if she wanted to move forward. Her phone buzzed on the counter. It was an email from an old contact at the financial company where she once worked. They wanted her to come back. For a moment, she was tempted. She remembered the woman she had been before Caspian, focused on her career, strong and independent. But she hesitated. Was going back to the corporate world the right choice? Or was it just running away from the pain? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing. She had to build something new for herself. Alara walked to the window and looked at the city stretching before her. It was full of opportunities. She had spent years as Caspian's accessory, the quiet wife by his side. But she was done with that role. She would build her own success, step by step. The next days were busy. Alara researched, planned, and thought hard about her future. She was smart, sharp, and hardworking. She reached out to old contacts, went to networking events, and met people who were excited about business and new ideas. It felt good. She realized how much she had missed this world, the world where she could use her brain, her skills, and her passion. But doubt still whispered to her. Sometimes she wondered if she was strong enough to succeed alone. Caspian's betrayal was still fresh, and the pain was real. She asked herself how she had let herself get lost in his dreams, how she had become only a side note in his story. But she refused to let these questions stop her. She told herself this was her one chance to rebuild, to rise again. One evening, while reading about a new business opportunity, she made a decision. She wouldn't just go back to work. She would start her own company. She had always believed in small businesses, in people with dreams who wanted to create something. She wanted to help them succeed, just like she had once helped Caspian. But this time, it would be for herself. The next day, she called a few investors she knew. She shared her vision passionately. To her surprise, they were excited. They wanted to hear more. The momentum grew. Alara felt a spark of joy she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't just starting over. She was starting something new, something powerful. As weeks passed, her confidence grew. She built a team of experts who shared her dream. Together, they worked hard, creating plans, meeting clients, and pushing forward. With every new deal, Alara felt the weight of her past fall away. But then came a phone call. It was Caspian's lawyer. Caspian was challenging the divorce settlement. He said she was trying to destroy him, that her new success was meant to harm him. A shiver ran down Alara's spine. She had expected a fight, but this was worse. He wanted to use her own hard work against her. She was shaken, but also fired up. She would not let him drag her down. She had already taken back her life, and she wasn't going to lose it again. Standing on the balcony of her apartment, she felt the breeze in her hair. The city lights twinkled, full of possibilities. She had given up the penthouse, but she had gained freedom. Her phone buzzed again. It was Beatrix, her lawyer. The divorce case had officially begun. The fight would be tough, but Alara was no longer afraid. A few minutes later, another message came. This time, it was from a startup company. They had been impressed with her skills and wanted her to lead their finance department. The pay wasn't huge, but it was fair. More importantly, it was a chance to step back into her career. Alara looked at her computer screen for a long time. Her heart was beating fast. She was thinking hard. Could she do this? Could she go back to the world she had once left behind? Back then, she had been married to Caspian. She had lived in his big shadow, always acting like the perfect wife. She never dreamed about her own future. But now, after everything she had been through, she felt stronger. She knew this was her chance. She had learned to stand alone. This was the first step to get back everything she had lost. She typed slowly and said yes to an interview. She knew this would change her life. The next morning, Alara went to the company's office. Her heart was racing with excitement. She had spent hours reading about the company, learning about its goals and dreams. This was not just about going back to work in finance. For Alara, it was more than a job. She wanted to help small businesses grow and do well. She wanted to do something good for herself this time. She did not want to be just another worker in the crowd. She wanted to make a difference. The interview went better than she thought it would. The bosses were very impressed with her knowledge and her past work, but even more, they saw something strong inside her. They saw a woman who had gone through many hard times but had come out stronger. They saw a spark in her eyes, one that had been hidden when she lived with Caspian. Alara felt this was her moment, the moment to show herself that she's not just Caspian's wife. She was Alara Vance, and she could be great on her own. Weeks passed, and Alara started her new job. At first, it was hard. She had been used to the rich and easy life she had with Caspian, but now things were different. She had to work hard for everything. Nothing was given to her for free. Every day she had to prove herself. But Alara liked that. She wanted to earn every step of her journey. She wanted to build her life again from nothing, without needing anyone else. As she worked, she grew more confident. She shared new ideas and helped the company in ways they had never seen before. Slowly, she realized she was not the same woman who had been crushed by Caspian's dreams. She was not the woman standing silently in the background anymore. Now she was in charge of her own life. She didn't wait for anyone's approval. She wasn't afraid of the future. But Caspian's shadow still followed her. He hadn't spoken to her since their last fight, but she knew he was watching. His company was falling apart, and she knew he would do anything to get back his power. Alara couldn't look back. She had to keep moving forward. She knew how tricky and controlling Caspian could be. She had been his pawn for too long, and she promised herself she would never let him control her again. One evening, Alara was at her desk reading reports. Her phone rang. The number was strange, but she answered. A cold, familiar voice spoke. It was Caspian. A lot has changed, hasn't it, Alara? He said. Alara took a deep breath, holding the phone tightly. She had expected this. What do you want, Caspian? She asked firmly. Hey. I want to make things right, Caspian said. His voice sounded soft, almost like he was begging, but Alara could hear his arrogance behind the words. You know, I always cared for you. I never meant to hurt you. Alara's blood turned cold. She had heard those lies before. She had been his wife, his partner, but he had thrown her aside the moment he found someone else. Now that he had lost everything, he was trying to come back. I've moved on, Caspian, she said, her voice strong. She was no longer scared of losing him. I'm done with you and your games. You should be, too. She hung up the phone and felt power rush through her body. This was not about money anymore. This was about freedom. Freedom from lies, freedom from tricks, freedom from Caspian. And with that freedom came something greater, the knowledge that she could build her life again, piece by piece. No one, not even Caspian, could take that away from her. Months passed, and Alara's company grew. She hired a small but talented team. Together, they made new plans to help small businesses succeed. Her life was no longer about Caspian's dreams, it was about her own. She was no longer a bystander. She was a leader. She made decisions, took risks, and showed confidence. One evening, sitting in her office and looking at the bright city lights, Alara smiled. She was free. She had built something from nothing. And in the process, she had found herself again. This was her life now. Her world. And no one could take it away. She was not the woman she had been before. She was so much more. Alara sat at her new desk. The office around her buzzed with activity. The city lights shone through the window, but inside her a fire burned brighter than ever. It had been months since she joined the startup, but she felt like her whole life had led her here. Her job as chief financial officer was tough. It tested her strength, her intelligence, and her ambition. But she had passed every test. The work was hard. Every day brought new problems and new choices that shaped the company's future. But Alara loved it. She was not just working. She was building. She was building something that was not tied to anyone else's dream. It was hers. Her eyes fell on her email. There were many messages from investors and clients, but one email made her heart beat faster. It was from a venture capital firm. It said, "We are impressed with your company. We want to discuss a big investment. Let's meet." Alara smiled proudly. She had been with the company when it was just an idea. Now it was becoming strong, and she was leading it. She was no longer just looking after money. She was shaping the future. She typed a quick reply, setting up the meeting, and leaned back with a smile. She had come far from the woman who lived under Caspian's control, but sometimes doubts still came. She remembered how Caspian once suffocated her dreams. She wasn't scared of him anymore, but the memory of losing herself made her careful. Every decision reminded her of how far she had come. She never wanted to forget her true self again. The investor meeting was a turning point. The partners came with money, but also with respect. They admired not only the company's growth, but Alara herself. They saw she was not a figurehead. She was the leader, the brain, and the heart of the company. She belonged here. By the end of the meeting, the deal was done. The company received a big investment that would help it grow, hire more people, and build new products. As Alara shook hands with the investors, pride filled her. This was her victory. Her journey had been hard, filled with pain and obstacles, but she had built her future with her own hands. In the weeks that followed, the company grew quickly. Alara led the way, choosing new workers, guiding the team, and making sure every step matched their long-term goals. She stayed focused on her vision, building a company that was not just about money, but about helping small businesses succeed. But with success came pressure. She had to keep balance, running the company without losing herself. She remembered how Caspian's world had swallowed her once, and she promised she would never let that happen again. She was not just a CEO. She was Alara Vance, a woman who had fought for every inch of her success. One evening, while reading reports, her phone rang. It was Beatrix, her divorce lawyer. Hearing Beatrix's voice brought back memories of the painful fight for her freedom. "Alara," Beatrix said, "I've heard things. Caspian's company is in big trouble. Investors are leaving, and his board is falling apart. His empire is crumbling." Alara felt a chill. Part of her felt satisfied. She had spent years helping him, only for him to betray her. Now, his kingdom was collapsing. But another part of her felt nothing at all. She had moved on. "I see," Alara said calmly, "but that's not my concern anymore. I'm focused on what I've built, not what he's lost." After hanging up, Alara thought about how far she had come. Once she had been trapped in Caspian's world. Now, she held the keys to her own future. She was no longer standing in the background. She was leading. She was a woman who had taken back her identity. Her success was not a dream anymore. It was real. The next day, Alara stood in front of her team at a big company meeting. The room was full of excited people who were waiting for her words. Alara smiled. It had been a long, hard road to get here, but now she knew this was exactly where she was meant to be. "We're not just building a company," Alara said. Her voice was strong and full of passion. "We're building a legacy. Our work matters, and we are going to make a difference. Let's keep moving forward. The best is yet to come." She looked at the faces of her team, the people she had brought together. Her heart filled with pride. She had already achieved more than she ever dreamed of, but she also knew her story was not over. The future still had endless possibilities. Alara told herself one simple truth. She had worked hard and earned everything she had. Nothing and no one could take that away. She believed that once she rebuilt her life, she could leave the past behind. Caspian, Serafina, the lies, the betrayal, all of it was supposed to stay in the past. But fate had other plans. One late afternoon, when the office was almost empty, the city lights glowed orange across her desk. Alara was about to leave when her assistant Iris knocked softly on the door. Iris's face was pale. "Miss Vance," Iris whispered. "There's someone on the phone. She says it's urgent." Alara raised an eyebrow. "Who is it?" Iris hesitated. It's Serafina." Alara's heart jumped. The very name sent a cold shiver down her spine. Serafina was part of her painful past. She had once worked with Caspian and used Alara's pain against her. Serafina was dangerous and had been part of the betrayal that broke Alara's heart. Now she was back. Alara motioned for Iris to leave the room. "Put her through," she said. Trying to stay calm, the phone crackled. A voice came through, smooth, confident, and full of pride. "Alara," Serafina said coldly. "It's been a while." Alara clenched her jaw but stayed silent for a moment. The room felt heavy with tension, like a storm waiting to explode. Serafina had always been manipulative, tricky, and cruel. Finally, Alara spoke. "What do you want, Serafina?" Serafina laughed softly, the sound icy and cruel. "I want what I'm owed, Alara, and you know what that is." Alara gripped the phone tighter. Her heart beat faster. "Owed?" she said in disbelief. "You're crazy if you think I owe you anything." "Don't play games with me," Serafina snapped. "You took everything from me, and now it's time to settle the score." Alara's mind raced. This wasn't about an apology. Serafina wanted revenge. She had once been Caspian's secret lover, the woman who ruined Alara's marriage, and now she wanted to ruin everything Alara had built. "You've got nothing left, Serafina," Alara said firmly. "Caspian is in prison. Your empire is falling apart, and I won't let you destroy me too. I'm done with your games." But Serafina's voice grew sharper. "You think it's over? You think you've won? No, Alara, I'm still in the game, and this time it's your turn to lose." A knot twisted in Alara's stomach. What could Serafina have on her? The divorce was long finished. Her business was strong. Her personal life was in order. Still, Alara knew Serafina was sneaky. "I have information," Serafina continued. "The kind that can ruin you. Your company will collapse. Your reputation will turn to dust. You'll be nothing." Alara swallowed hard. She could tell Serafina wasn't bluffing. She had been silent for too long, waiting for the right time to strike. Alara's voice turned cold. "Try me. You won't win. You already lost once. You can't take me down now." Serafina laughed, mocking her. "Oh, Alara, you don't even see it. You're one step away from falling, and I'll make sure you fall." The call ended. Alara slowly put down the phone, her thoughts spinning. Could Serafina really have something that could destroy her? Just then, her phone buzzed again. It was an anonymous message. "I know what you did. The truth will come out soon." Her heart skipped a beat. Who sent this? Was it Serafina or someone else? Alara knew she was in the middle of a dangerous game. She couldn't let her guard down. Not now. Not ever again. She had come too far to lose everything. In the days that followed, Alara couldn't stop thinking about Serafina's words. What secret could she have? What weapon was she holding? But Alara was not going to let Serafina control her future. She had already fought for her life once, and she would fight again. She gathered her most trusted advisors, her lawyers, her security team, and even some old contacts who knew Serafina's past. No stone would be left unturned. Days turned into weeks. Alara worked hard, setting up backup plans and searching for clues. She stayed alert, knowing Serafina's threats were real. But Alara was ready. She wasn't only fighting for her company or her name. She was fighting for herself. The pressure was heavy. The threats, the messages, the fear of losing everything. It felt like a storm around her. But Alara wasn't the type of woman to run away. She had risen from betrayal once before, and she would do it again. Late one night, Alara sat in her office with papers spread across her desk. Her coffee had gone cold, but she didn't notice. She kept searching. If Serafina had leverage, Alara was going to find it first. Her phone buzzed. An email popped up. It was from Corbin Holt, her old investigator. The message was short. I have the proof you need. Let's meet tomorrow. Without thinking twice, Alara agreed. The next day, she met Corbin at a quiet cafe. He sat in the corner, scanning the room like he always did. Without a word, he pushed a folder toward her. This is everything, Corbin said in a low voice. Everything you need to take Serafina down. Alara opened the folder. Her heart pounded as she looked inside. There were photos, emails, money records, proof of Serafina's dirty deals with Caspian. But it was worse than she expected. Serafina hadn't just tried to ruin her marriage. She had been secretly building power for herself, planning to take Caspian's empire too. The more Alara read, the more she realized the truth. Serafina had been leaking secrets to people inside her company, poisoning their trust. She had been making deals in the shadows, trying to tear Alara's world apart. Serafina wasn't just a threat, she was dangerous. But now Alara had proof. On her way back to the office, Alara's eyes blazed with determination. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. A war for her future, for her legacy, for everything she had built. The next day, Alara began her plan. She brought in her best lawyers to prepare a lawsuit. The lawsuit would expose all of Serafina's crimes, her financial tricks, her shady deals, and her attempts to destroy Alara. This wasn't just about stopping Serafina. This was about ending her once and for all. Serafina thought Alara was too distracted to fight back, but she was wrong. Alara was no longer the weak woman who had been betrayed. She was stronger now. She had turned her pain into her greatest weapon, and now she was ready. It was time to strike. The moment Serafina got the letter from Alara's lawyers, she went into a panic. She was so scared that Alara could almost feel the fear even from far away. Serafina was afraid because her big empire, the one she had worked so hard to make, was about to break apart. The letter told everything. It showed the lies Serafina had made, the fake papers she used, the secrets she had leaked, and even the crimes she had done. It was like someone slowly breaking down all the walls Serafina had built to look strong. But the biggest shock came when Alara added the proof Corbin had found. There were emails, bank transfers, and even recordings of Serafina talking to some of Alara's own workers. The truth was out. Serafina, who had always looked so confident, now looked trapped. The walls were closing in on her, and this time Alara was not going to let her escape. From her office window, Alara watched the news. Reporters everywhere were sharing the story. The big headline read, "Businesswoman's lover caught in huge scandal." Alara felt something inside her. It wasn't revenge. It was something better. It was the feeling of finally seeing justice. The lies were no longer hidden, and there was no way Serafina could get out of this mess. For the next few days, Alara stayed busy. She answered reporters' questions, spoke with her board of directors, and made sure her company stayed strong and respected. It was a fight of what people thought, and Alara was winning. Slowly, the storm began to calm. Alara knew she had come out on top, but even with Serafina's world falling apart, Alara felt uneasy. There was still one last piece of the story left. Caspian. He was the man who had started all of this. He was the reason Alara had suffered so much. Now he was sitting in prison, paying for his choices. Alara wondered, what would Caspian do when he found out about everything that had happened? Alara stood by her office window, looking down at the busy city. She realized her victory was not just about surviving, it was about taking back her life, her power, and her future. Serafina had underestimated her, and in the end, it was Serafina who had lost everything. Alara had won. Alara thought she was finished with Caspian. After all the pain he gave her, she had buried him in the past. She had moved on, built a strong company, and proved that she was far more powerful than Caspian ever believed. But one afternoon, as she sat in her shiny office going over her company's new plans, her phone buzzed. The number on the screen was strange. Her heart jumped. It was him, Caspian. The phone call felt like a ghost from her old life. She had tried so hard to forget him. For a moment, she thought about ignoring it, but something inside told her to answer. She was not the same woman anymore. She had been through fire and survived. This time would be different. Taking a deep breath, Alara answered. "Hello," she said. Her voice was steady but carried years of anger. "Alara." Caspian's voice came through the phone. It was heavier, weaker than she remembered. Prison had taken away his proud, confident tone. "I know you don't want to hear me, but I need to apologize. I owe you that." Alara's hands squeezed the phone tightly. This was the man who had destroyed their marriage, the man who had treated her like she was nothing. And now, after all these years, he wanted to say sorry. The irony was almost laughable. "You're right," Alara replied coldly. "You owe me an apology, but I don't owe you anything. You lost that right the day you decided to ruin everything." Caspian sighed. His voice was full of regret. "I know what I did was unforgivable. I've thought about it for years. I made horrible choices. I didn't see what I had. I threw everything away. For nothing." Alara leaned back in her chair, looking at the city she had conquered. She was stronger now, wiser. "You didn't just throw away our marriage," she said, her voice sharp. "You threw away me, the person who loved you no matter what, the person who stood by you until you betrayed her in the worst way." There was silence on the phone, heavy silence. Alara could almost hear his guilt pressing down on him. At last, Caspian spoke softly. "I regret it. I regret losing you more than anything." Alara closed her eyes. For years, she had carried that pain like a heavy stone on her chest, but now she realized something. That pain had shaped her. It had made her into the woman she was today, a woman who could not be broken. "It's too late for regret," she said quietly. "You had your chance. You wasted it." Caspian's voice cracked. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know I've changed. I know what I lost, and I'm sorry." Alara stayed silent for a while. She wasn't sure what she expected. Maybe an apology, maybe tears. But none of it mattered now. She had moved on. "I've spent years rebuilding, not just my company, but myself," she finally said. "And now I'm free. I don't need you, Caspian. I never did." There was something final in her words, something that even Caspian could hear. She was no longer the woman he once controlled. "I don't want to hurt you anymore," Caspian whispered. "I just wanted to say sorry for everything." Alara stood up from her desk. She looked at the strong walls of her office, the walls that kept her safe from him and his shadow. She thought of the battles she had fought, the long nights of hard work, the empire she had built on her own. "I appreciate the apology," she said calmly, "but it doesn't change anything. We're finished, Caspian. We have been for a long time." There was another pause before Caspian spoke again. "I don't know what to do now," he admitted. "I've lost everything. My company, my freedom, and now you. I don't have anything left." For a tiny moment, Alara felt a flicker of pity, but it passed quickly. That's not my problem anymore, she said firmly. I've worked hard for everything I have. I'm proud of what I've built. You could have been part of it, but you chose differently. This is the end. With that, Alara hung up the phone. Her heart felt heavy, but she knew she had done the right thing. The man who had once been her whole world was now just a memory. A closed chapter in her book. Alara looked at her reflection in the window. For the first time in years, she felt free. She had taken back her life. Caspian's apology was the last reminder she would ever need. The past was behind her. The future was hers to shape. The click of the phone echoed in her ears, and with that sound, Alara smiled. She was finally free. Thank you for joining us on this amazing journey of self-discovery and strength. What did you learn from Alara's story? Did you feel inspired? Don't forget to leave a comment below and share your thoughts with us. And if you like this story, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this. See you next time.